So I got people who look like this telling me things like this because my hair looks like this. Let's talk about this. The big question we're going to be talking about today is whether or not pilots can or cannot have dreads. But before I answer that, let me tell y'all about my backstory with dreads. So I first got dreads, we'll say back in 2020 when I was at JSX. And I was really, really nervous about doing this. I mean, I had a lot of anxiety, which I think that alone is ridiculous because most people don't get anxiety from changing their hairstyle outside of, I don't know if I'm gonna like it or not, but they don't think, oh, is the world still gonna accept me? Are people gonna tell me stuff? Is everybody gonna get mad at me because I have dreads? No one else thinks about that stuff, but I did because I didn't see anybody else doing it. I didn't see any other Black pilots with dreads, especially in the professional world. I didn't see any of that. So I was super, super nervous. And I knew that getting dreads would be pushing the grooming standards at like 99% of the airlines, you know what I mean? But I did it. I did it anyways. And the saving grace for me is that I worked at the time at JSX. And JSX is a very progressive company with progressive values, and they don't care about the little stuff, you know, they care about the big picture stuff. Do you look good? Do you look professional? Yes or no? They don't care whether or not your hair has dreads or if it's faded up or if you have an afro. I mean, within reason, they don't care about that stuff. So I was in an environment where I felt like, even though I am pushing the standard, I was in a place where I could do that. And me being at JSX at that time gave me the confidence that I needed to keep pushing that barrier. So when I went to interviews at major airlines, a lot of people told me, you need to cut your dreads. You need to cut your dreads. Get rid of your dreads. You're going to cost yourself a job by keeping your dreads. And when I had these conversations with these people, I said, oh yeah, for sure, I'm going to cut my dreads. I know that. I would hate to risk a whole multi-million-dollar career because I kept my hair a certain way. And so I told them, yeah, I'm going to cut my dreads. Did I cut my dreads? No. Did I cut my dreads? No, I didn't cut my dreads. And it worked out just fine. Both of those companies hired me, no issues at all. And the biggest reason why I kept my dreads is because I knew that at that point, I was kind of clearing the path for everybody else. Not that I was trying to be cocky and be some kind of activist or anything like that, but I was saying to myself, I shouldn't have to change the norms of my culture to work at this specific employer. And if this employer wants me to do that, then I don't want to be there. And I had my dreads because if they didn't hire me because of my dreads, I didn't want to be there. So boom, simple, problem taken care of. And that was the sacrifice that I was willing to take. And that's a big sacrifice, guys. I mean, that's a really, really, really big risk. They could have easily said, oh no, she's not going to represent our company. And they don't have to tell you why they didn't hire you. But I was cool with that. I was 100% fine with taking that risk. I did it and it paid off. And for me, the biggest reward that I have gotten from that is I'll see people who are like me, who have the same concerns, and they'll reach out to me and they'll say, hey man, like I was really, really worried about starting flight school and becoming a pilot because I have dreads and I didn't know if I could have dreads and I was freaking out about it. But then I saw your videos or I saw your post on Instagram and I was like, oh my God, like we can have them. And so I kept them. And if you're one of those people, I say, keep your dreads. Keep them, keep them, keep them. When you're ready to get rid of your dreads, then get rid of them, you know, but do it on your own accord. Don't do it because you feel like you have to change to meet a specific standard. That's absolutely ridiculous. I mean, of course, keep them neat, keep them clean, keep a haircut, but don't change your dreads because you feel like that's what you have to do. Because when you enter this industry and you're in a position that we are, our goal is to help clear the way for people coming behind us. Regardless of how big or small the issue is, the goal is to make it better for everybody else, you know? Because, I mean, you can ask anybody, the aviation industry, specifically being a pilot, was not what it used to be. It used to be a very, very rigid, militaristic environment that was not an enjoyable place to work. But if you wanted to be a pilot, you had to deal with it. And it has changed immensely since those days, immensely, you know? And the only way that those changes happen is from one, I mean, company culture changing, but then also people who are willing to push the barriers to a more positive way. And then it makes room for more people to come through and make more positive changes. And the cycle continues and continues and continues. So yes, 100%. Do it. Do it and keep them. As you guys can tell, yes, pods can have dreads. But like I said, if you're going to have them, just understand where you're working, the culture of your company, the grooming standards that your company has, and do your best to style your dreads in a way that are going to best reflect those standards. For example, for me, when I'm working, I have my dreads tied up just like this. And when I'm at home, I have them loose, I have them loose, hanging out all over the place. But I would never, ever, 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 ever show up to work with my hair just loose and all over the place, because that's going to be like, bro, what are you doing? Tie them up, make sure people can see your ears and all that. Make sure that you keep them above your ears as much as possible. They're not flying all over the place. Just use some common sense when you're working with your dreads. And to that, I would say other people who I've seen now have dreads are following those basic principles, because they know, like, yeah, I'm going to tie up my dreads when I go to work. It's just common sense. Last but not least, though, I will just say as a general statement, expect some pushback. No matter what you do in life, regardless of what the topic is, if you do something, someone else isn't going to like it. That's just the way life is. So if you decide you want to keep or have dreads, you are going to get pushback from someone, somewhere, somehow. Somebody's not going to like it, and you just have to be okay with that. You know what I mean? But the vast majority of people either A, do not care, truly don't care, B, won't tell you anything, or C, if they do tell you something, it's typically positive, And that's okay. That's totally okay, because the positive comments are the ones that are going to inspire you to keep doing what you're doing, When I have folks come up to me and tell me, hey man, like, you encourage me to keep my dreads, that makes me want to keep my dreads. That being said, when I cut my dreads, it's going to be because I wanted to cut my dreads, and not because I feel like I had to cut them to keep my job. And it is what it is. I feel like I would have done my part, and I would have lived my experience, and I would have lived happy with myself knowing that I kept true to my word, and I did not change myself to get to where I am now. And that was the biggest thing that I did not want to do, because I had seen so many people change who they are to become a pilot. And it's understandable too, because this job will do this to you, because there are so many different parts of being a pilot that will infiltrate themselves into your normal life. There's so many things you cannot do as a pilot, and in order for you to not do those things, you have to incorporate those things into your lifestyle. So it's easy to lose yourself in the process, and I did not want that to happen to me. And in some ways it did. I mean, there are some things that I had to change up myself to fit the mold of being a pilot, but the ones that I felt comfortable pushing, or the ones that mattered to me, I pushed them, and I stayed true to those. And I encourage everybody else to as well, because if I do it and then you do it and the next guy does it, eventually no one's going to care at all, because it's just going to be like, yeah, that's just the way it is. No one cares. Like, you've never seen a pilot with dreads before? What do you mean, bro? Like, where have you been? That's how it should be. So anyways, guys, as always, like, comment, and subscribe. I'll see you guys in the next video. Next week, we are talking about money. Money, 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 money. That's why I don't sing. See you guys.